17.
Yeah, it's a
was
little
older.
younger, not much, and
Yeah.
they had to cut in my jawbone to get one out.
They didn't knock you out either, did they? They just gave you Novocaine, right?
10 shots of Novocaine, laughing gas, and then
Yeah.
some good drugs that were
These
figuring out.
these kids get knocked out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Really?
really?
Yeah, they don't get to. I know. I guess my daughter went through that. I'm like, you didn't suffer.
No, no.
We were awake for it. And they're like,
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't care. I had laughing gas and I had tunes going and
Pain and
and it was like an assembly line operation too. I went back in there and all the kids were like,
Oh, really?
yeah, in beds lined up one after another after the procedure, coming out of their
oh,
Yeah.
stupor.
Yeah. They tried to put the IV in my left side and it didn't work. So they were like really confused. 'Cause
You were
they-
dehydrated.
Yeah, I think my veins are small too, so they couldn't get in, and then they had to put in the other one, and it was
Oh, yeah, man.
that's too bad.
I went in for a colonoscopy here a while back. And they said we couldn't get to your veins, so they end up putting it here in my hand.
Yeah, in your hand.
I'm like, the Red Cross has no problem, and they can find 3 on each side.
Same issue when I went in.
Yeah,
They couldn't start the anesthetic for my
They-
procedure.
fentanyl.
It's 6 o'clock.
Oh,
Okay,
Oh, 1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a quorum, right? On's the only person here. Zoom.
on Zoom.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay,
At one time, Hans would have been part of the one.
what? No, I don't think he's ever been on CLC.
CLC.
No,
Oh,
I certainly
on-
don't remember.
been on things, but I don't remember what all.
Wasn't on CLC. I've been on it since like 2004.
That's not working.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. And Kevin, if you would take the roll.
All right, David Lorman,
Here,
David Shaw, Jim Gurn is absent and excused. Susan West,
Present.
Tom Bernthal,
Here.
Nathan Jaron,
present.
and Charles Myers is not with us right now.
Okay. Next, first item is acceptance of the minutes. Does anyone have any changes or whatever? I will accept the minutes. And first item is Conservancy Lands Plan. Want to make a motion, somebody?
Anybody have anything to say about it other than it's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good? I'll make a motion. We accept the Conservancy Lands Plan and refer it to
Common Council.
Common Council and anybody else? Kevin?
I say Common Council recommend to Common Council
Yeah.
adoption of the Conservancy lands through resolution. I'll get a number from city clerk and
Yeah.
get that written up.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good. We'll do that.
Second,
second,
okay,
That was
Norman, sure.
any discussion about it?
Well, do you have any discussion, any thoughts, anything, anybody?
We can nitpick this for the next year and it still won't be perfect.
I will say I learned something about gray tree frogs.
Yeah.
And I found one in a bowl of pitcher plants that I have on my driveway. A couple of days ago and this afternoon, he was up in the rhubarb
Oh,
in a
okay.
flower pot.
Okay. How big screw?
Any other discussion about the plan?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head it's large, it's comprehensive. So, when you start going through it, everybody has an opinion
Everybody can find
Yeah.
something,
and,
but
and that's, where I am when I look at something this big. Now,
It's a guidance document. It's not necessarily, we're gonna follow every little thing
Yeah.
even. So stuff will change.
everybody's gonna have a little different opinion about various things, but
Yeah.
it's really very good. So
And I think the one thing I'm pleased with seeing, which I haven't seen in previous ones, is discussion of finances with fact that we're combining all these stormwater facilities in with this. And city council is gonna have to work out that, yeah, we're gonna need to finance some of these things. And not let some of the features go downhill.
Yeah.
One I'm thinking about is the Jacobson property on Allen Boulevard that a long time ago, it was beautiful. You could look in there and see marsh marigolds blooming.
Yeah.
And it's back to buckthorn.
So, I mean,
And all it needs is a burner tube.
what I liked was the parts where they did some economics and recommended how much money, you know, you need to keep at it for 10 years
Yeah,
after you do the initial restoration
it's
and allow to, you know, budget for that.
important that once we've restored some of these areas, we do some of the maintenance, which is burning.
If you can't do the maintenance, don't do the restoration.
Right. Yeah, so for new areas, don't restore it unless we've got money.
Yep, yep.
What do you feel, Kevin, you know, as, I
I think,
mean, you're the one who's kind of stuck with it.
yeah, and I think that's a good thing. I'm happy with the way the plan turned out, even before we got feedback from our different committees. And once we went through that process of getting feedback from Parks and Rec, from the Bike Ped Transit, from Plan Commission, and then especially the feedback we got from Water Resources, like going through that process, hearing what things are important to them. I would say the only thing maybe we could have done better was to solicit that feedback earlier in the process, just to give, rather than doing revisions, we're just incorporating that stuff.
Yeah, yep.
And,
Yeah.
but I'm happy with the way the plan turned out. I'm excited to get going on implementing some of the goals of the plan. So I'm all for passing this along and asking common council to adopt it.
Well, I think also we're starting a new era in terms of staff that are responsible for these different areas. I mean, you and Kylie are relatively new. We've got a new head of public works,
Yeah,
a new
change.
person in,
Tom, that does have to stay open.
at
Just,
least for, gotta stay open.
Oh, does it?
yeah,
Yeah,
The thing.
open meeting.
There you go.
Recommended,
Yep.
same thing.
and it's, yeah, every meeting, the wastebasket is rolled by.
Oh,
Yeah, so.
So, but I think with the new staff working together, because the new thing is including all of these stormwater features that were just stormwater features.
Mhm.
Yeah, but putting them in native vegetation is fantastic.
I thought it was a good move to add that category of native vegetation management areas for those areas that are small or multi-purpose and multi-jurisdictional, if you will.
So I think the challenge is going to be how and who pays for it and that sort of thing. And possibly with water resources, looking at probably going to referendum to increase the stormwater fee so that we have funds to manage these stormwater features and not have to come out of Conservancy budget. I think that, because I know Eric didn't put in the cost of like purchasing native seed and so on.
Yeah. Oh, it's hard to balance these things out, so.
Yeah, well, we went to referendum on that.
Did we have a vote on the motion?
No,
Oh, okay.
not yet. We're still sort of just discussing.
I'm just want to make sure we're not getting, lost.
No,
I do sometimes.
it's a 360, 326 page document. And,
Yeah.
Now that I've survived a 2-year term and I'm back at it again, learned some things in the process about these comprehensive plans. And some of my alders look at them and hold it up with an evangelical approach to it. You know, where I am somewhere in the ballpark of guidance tools.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I just never want us to get ourselves boxed into a corner over anything that would be in here.
yes, I
But
agree. It's a guidance
It's a
tool.
plan and plans change.
And
it
it's,
needs to be a plan where, you know, because politicians, we come and go,
yeah,
but staff is here and they have to look at it and say, you know, we started this, we want to stick to it. This is a good direction to go. Let's stay on this particular project of restoration or whatever,
yeah.
you know, makes sense at the time.
And I think one of the other things, I don't know, I don't remember it being in here specifically, but I've been thinking about in terms of recreation in Middleton and contracting parks. We forget what percentage of the population is really interested in the Conservancy lands.
Mhm.
And
Hi.
yeah, I mean, older people don't want to go to unless they have grandchildren, a little park with swing sets. And the Conservancy lands are just as important as the other parks.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the cost comparison between golf course maintenance and
Oh, yeah.
restoration.
But the golf
maintenance.
course has those fees, you know, so.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
golf
they have
course is
these,
an enterprise
but-
fund
Yeah.
that costs the city.
So,
But sometimes they take a little too much advantage of that.
the other thing I read 90% of it. I ran out of time for reading the bike trail, the bike pedestrian thing, and obviously that's gonna be key.
Yeah, well, that's something I've been thinking about in terms of committee structure. Because we now have a member from here on water resources, but I don't see us interacting as much with public works. And that I think it might be better to have a person, a liaison with bike ped and take the public works person off since we've definitely have got the water resources.
Yeah, so there's one thing I'm learning also about these plans is at any particular life during this, you can look at a piece of it as a member, say, committee, commission, and say, you know what, we need to change the language of pages, whatever, through whatever. And there's nothing that says we can't do that.
Right.
We can't do updates. And so I think,
That's something in the future we can look
Yeah.
into. I mean, especially since we've made such a big change with adding the stormwater features in.
I guess,
That makes, I mean, I'm trying to think what public works would be involved in.
I just think on an annual basis, if it stays part of this committee's job to say, you know, once a year, we want to look at this.
Review this, see where we're at.
Right.
In comparison to the goals that were put forth. And yeah, use it
I
as a
think that's a
roadmap.
real good idea.
And not that we have to get obsessed over, you know, one particular thing, but it's just, you know, as you come across something, you go, whoa,
Yeah.
something's changed out there in management, conservancy management.
Mhm.
Now here's an opportunity just to update a section of it, so.
Yeah, and I think some of it, well, a change I've noticed was back when we had Penny Klein as public lands manager.
Mhm.
We did a tremendous amount of really good restoration of areas. And there's quite a few that have not been kept up to what she established. And we need to, I think, go over every year, are we maintaining what we've accomplished? Any other discussion?
Okay, I just,
Then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one. Unanimous. Good. Okay. The Eagle naming campaign. Okay, we're down to 10 pairs of names.
Yeah, this is from 96 names.
I don't know who picked out these 10.
Well, you can, this is merely a suggestion. If you want to pick from, I did include the list of
Yeah,
96 names. You're welcome to
I
choose
mean,
from.
there was Don and Glinda, you know, I kind of like that one.
I was gonna vote, but I held on. I said, no, I'll leave this open to the public.
what,
I was gonna vote, but I will leave this open to the public. I don't want to, I don't want to put something in there that would,
so, you're bringing up the,
influence a name.
They're there for you.
Oh, there we go.
there they are.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand all of them, I gotta admit.
Yeah, some look like just names of people nominating them.
I think
Is there a Tom in there?
in themselves. Is Kevin in there by?
You have to be on Facebook. to vote,
Kevin?
so, yeah.
I wasn't thinking Kevin Short, I said Kevin.
Oh.
So there was some that were like, they're trying to do Middleton here.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah, I think this is probably spelled wrong. It's just supposed to say spring.
Well, it does on the other, go back to the other document, it does have the I in it.
Well, Kevin, thank you for pointing that
Yeah.
out. That's very clever.
Yeah, yeah.
Liddy and Elton.
I was thinking MIDI as in, you know,
Yeah.
Donald and Lydia.
Ah,
Okay,
Sage and Cedar, okay.
Daisy and Oak,
I think Daisy and Oak. Yeah, I like it.
Daisy and Oak.
Spring and Frederick, and Prairie and Swoop. Okay,
We have to make a recommendation.
yes.
I would like you to.
Kevin, I really do like Mitty and Elton. Thank you for pointing that out. It's clever.
Yeah,
I'm okay with clever. I'll support.
now that I know what it is, I like it much better than
Yeah,
I
yeah. me
looked at it
too.
earlier.
It's just, it's clever. I certainly get
Anybody else have?
cleverness.
I got fondness for Prairie and Swoop, but
Okay,
Yeah, I like that one too.
that one works.
oh, this is gonna get competitive
So-
tonight.
Okay,
Conclave.
there you go. We're 20 days later.
We burn.
So
Write it.
the other thing we could do is if you want to pick 3 pairs and we'll put it back on
Next-
social media for a week.
Yeah.
And let.
I like that idea.
Okay,
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
okay, so we know
Daisy
2.
and Elton, Prairie and Swoop,
Daisy and Oak.
Daisy and Oak, or,
Sure,
yeah,
that works.
or I could see Spring and Frederick. But Daisy and Oak might be better.
Okay.
Is it, do we have a native Daisy?
Who's for
Yeah, I know. I was thinking the exact same thing that I was thinking, don't go there, Tom. It's too. Silphium.
Yes.
So how about Silphium and Oak?
Maybe make it 4 since Frederick Springs is a place in the Conservancy.
If you want 4,
Yeah,
3 sounds like a nice number.
Yeah, I don't know, I think,
You guys can get it down to 3.
let's get it down to 3. Hey, it's between, Spring and Frederick and,
Daisy and Oak.
Daisy and Oak.
I think I vote for Frederick Springs, Spring and Frederick.
I think I would too.
Okay. I'd say Daisy and Oak first. I think it sounds more ringy and
Me
easy to
too.
remember.
okay, well, we can vote on the last name.
Last name,
Yes, we can
okay.
do that.
How many in favor of Spring and Frederick?
Okay.
Daisy and Oak.
Yeah. Okay.
Go down fighting to the
I'm
last.
blaming it on Kevin because, you know, he pointed out this whole Middleton theme,
Yeah,
middle.
Yeah.
Mitty and
Mitty
Elton,
and
I would have.
That's right.
Board.
Just educated me on Frederick Spring and.
The-
All right.
The thing I didn't like was I got to Clover and Crimson, I kept on having this tune go through my head.
Yeah. It should be
Okay.
crimson and clove.
I know, but it doesn't matter. My brain went right there.
Okay. So we need a motion to say we're going
To
to send
push it
it
back out,
to the public, yeah.
I think that motion.
I will make that motion.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Motion that we're going to send these three names back to the public to choose.
Perfect. Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Okay. Next item, discussion only of the incidental take of wildlife during prescribed operations. This is something Kevin Munson keeps bringing up to me almost every time he comes by my house on his way to go over to the Conservancies. He's very concerned that in the prescribed burns, we are going to accidentally kill some birds. And it's against federal law. There was stuff in the master plan about it.
Federal law prohibits accidental taking of birds.
Yeah, certain birds. I think it's something we maybe need. Evelyn had stuff in the master plan.
Yep.
To get a little bit more information. I certainly don't have enough. And it depends on,
Isn't it typically timing of burns? So you,
some of it is timing of the birds, but even some of the later burns, I think it's the speed of the burn. And one of my concerns is burning eggs considered incidental taking? I mean,
Right.
or not? Certainly when adaptive burn by yard,
It's just
there wasn't a risk to birds at all.
doing prescribed burns is so iffy. I mean,
Yeah,
the speed at which things burn, how hot it gets, all depends on a bunch of things that you don't know until,
you don't know till you're out there doing it, yeah.
and it changes while you're out there doing it.
And the thing is, we need prescribed burns,
Yeah,
not just for management, but for fire control.
yeah.
And with global warming and all these forest fires everywhere, I've got to admit, living as close to the Conservancy as I do, I feel much safer knowing that it gets burned every
So,
Yeah.
2 to 3 years.
sorry, I don't know more about eagles, but do they nest more in forested or more open areas?
They're nesting in trees, so.
Well, yes, but doesn't really matter. They'll both be in both.
Yeah,
So if they're in open areas, we might burn. If they're in forested areas, we won't burn.
I guess what I would say is Middleton Hills in the wetlands has a pair of cranes. And they've been there for years because they're actually pictured on the banners there on the streets in Middleton. And those have been up for a long time.
Yes, they are.
They keep coming back every year and raising young.
and there's also a pair at the airport.
But,
There's
Here's-
also a pair at the
okay.
airport.
okay, that's consistent. So for some of these big ones,
There's no burning there.
we seem to be doing okay. I think it's something we need to find some of the information.
So this is the information in our plan.
Okay,
And
Oops, I'm sorry.
so my understanding of it is more at the state level. The
Okay.
state allows for what they call an incidental take permit that's broadly distributed for basically, they call it grassland and savanna broad incidental take permit. So the activities involved with maintaining prairie, savanna, woodland, those activities are covered under this broad take. I will say I don't have much understanding of the federal legislation. This is the
yeah,
this is the items that we use when we look at this. You know, I reached out, I think when we had originally had this on the schedule, I reached out to some of the other organizations that burn in the area. So the state, the Dane County, Fish and Wildlife, and then contractors like Adaptive Restoration. And most of my comments back, when Adaptive Restoration does a burn in a wetland unit, they're conducting bird and turtle surveys before that occurs. All our burns are wrapped up before the NRCS's recognized nesting season of May 14th to August 1st.
okay.
So typically the practices are happening beforehand, so.
Okay.
Also, when you plan a burn, I mean, every burn plan has to address this possibility, and we've done burns in the county end where a refugium is established. And it's more for insects,
Mhm.
snakes and things like that, that if you think it's gonna be an issue, you provide an unburned area during that burn. So, it just
Think we're
it
okay.
seems like you have to burn to maintain the habitat.
Mhm.
So, I would rely on the planning ability of the people that are conducting the
Yeah.
burn.
This might be just a question to direct to adaptive and.
Yeah,
see
I
how-
feel like we're
I think
following
I think
certainly
we're
the
fine.
policies of the state.
Mhm.
We're well within the guidelines given to us, as far as nesting seasons. All our contracted burns are complete now, and the vast majority of our in-house burns, we've got maybe 3 burns targeted left on the list left that are areas of like reed canary grass monoculture that we're trying to kill off. So
Yeah.
we're waiting later into the season to get the most bang for our buck on those.
There's probably not gonna be that many birds.
And
in
that's something
there
we
that
can
would-
check,
yeah.
check beforehand too, so,
Yeah.
and, if we have
Cause you
to,
could scare the birds out.
well, there's still
if-
maybe
There
nests
might
there,
be some
so,
nesting ones.
we're certainly flexible in our planning, and if we have to change the size or the fire breaks, to accommodate for that, that's certainly something that we would be doing.
Okay, we will get some more information sometime. Just basically,
What incident prompted this item on the?
Kevin Munson, who donated the Eagle Scope and has done all the photography, incredible photography.
Does he have an incident that he cites?
No.
Instead of
Uh,
something.
he brought it up to me when he heard that Horicon Marsh was burning in February. So he felt like they were doing it right and we were burning too late.
Also, it's timing,
Well,
yeah.
and-
Yeah, big
And
thing was.
so
timing.
last year, all of our burns were done in February. If you remember that spring, we had a really warm spring, really
Mhm.
early spring. And so a lot of it is, I would say this year is probably more normalized on our schedule.
Okay.
But
Kevin, would it be possible just to get a list of when certain burns occurred?
I can give you a historical list, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
that might be, and bring that next month and
Mhm.
we can get a little more feel for what's going on. I'd like to be able to reassure people that, no, we're not going in and killing endangered birds. But it's still also one of those, it's a practice that's essential for maintaining habitat.
Right.
I assume it's not the eagles he's worried about. It's ground nesting.
I think it's the ground nesting, yeah.
That's what I would assume.
Have you seen his book on Middleton Hills birds?
No,
I'll bring it next month.
I mean, he's
He's an incredible
Incredible.
photographer.
that badger photo, that's a.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is the wildlife in the Middleton Hills stormwater detention ponds. Nobody realizes anymore they're stormwater detention ponds. They think it's Conservancy. So. Okay, I think we've discussed that enough. David, you're next.
Yeah, I mean, it just the petition was filed with, and they talked to Bike Ped and Transit and Common Council, I believe, Charlie Crow and
Oh, there was so they did a they did a public, just public,
Right.
during the common council, no discussion. Then there was a privately hosted event at Village Green.
Right.
And that's where we're at.
I think they went to Bike Ped and Transit too.
Okay, I'm not aware of that.
Yeah,
If they did, they did.
There's a
Here's,
reference to that.
Minutes from October 1st, 2024 common
Yeah.
council meeting, and yep, public comments from Charles Nod, Charlie Crow, regarding the petition that was given to common council at that point. And then November 7th, Ped Bike Transit Committee, the
Charles showed up at the Orchid Heights listening session summer ago, a year.
oh, for our Conservancy lands plan, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that's when I met Charlie.
Yeah.
Uh,
They're both Charles, right? Charlie and Charles.
Yeah.
Isn't the other one Chuck?
Chuck Nod.
Chuck,
Chuck Nod and
yeah,
Charlie.
yeah, Charlie
Crow.
introduced himself as
Yeah, yeah.
Charlie, I believe.
Yeah.
I think it both were, well, at least one of them was there. Yeah.
Well, I think
They may have both been at that. at
They
the
both
Heights
might have been
event,
there
yeah,
too.
yeah.
this
Yeah.
is
That's my
something
district.
going forward we need to discuss more of. And in this new master plan, I got the impression we can have different kinds of surfaces and different uses of trails. And it's not a statement, we're no longer saying all trails have to be open to all individuals.
Right.
And
But I do think I think they've got a point. This would be a trail that would, for a variety of reasons, be good to pave. But I'm not enough of an engineer. Oh, wait, I'm not at all an engineer. For me to figure out if the trail that's there can be paved, or if there should be some switchbacks installed or other
Mhm.
things, and you know, what other, you start putting in pavement and then you're basically damming water as it goes.
Yeah,
And this causes erosion, and all of a sudden you're just opening up a whole mess of things that you gotta consider that. I think we have to be careful about how we go about this.
Yeah. Just to refresh, this is like from the water tower down to the,
Park.
so it's going down that steep
Yeah.
section
Yeah.
where the hayfield used to be there.
Basically where
Yeah.
where Orchid Heights of paved trail ends, you know, it connects up to the street, but it essentially ends there. And then, of course, it's
Yeah,
the unpaved trail all the way up to Highland.
yeah,
Well, I don't even think you have to go all the way to Highland, but maybe just a little past the water tower.
they just want to get up that steep hill.
Get up that steep
Yeah.
hill.
Yeah.
So this section of trail right here is where the petition focuses on.
Okay,
Um,
Yeah,
that's what I-
exactly.
This is a particularly steep section, that is, the material is, crushed limestone screenings.
Okay.
And, of concern is that as we get rain events, and we saw it quite a bit last
Washes out.
season,
It washes out.
combined with, you know, a lot of those
And
rains
ruts.
came at times when we had our crew cleaning up the events of, you know, storm damage, so
Mhm.
we have hard time keeping up with trail maintenance when we're pulling trees off people's houses or out of their driveways or off
Yeah.
sidewalks. So so I think their petition was twofold. In one, you've got difficulty traversing this surface and trail
Mhm.
using a wheelchair or someone just that you know, might be aided by cane or has trouble walking.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So there's one point there. And then a second point was being able to provide bicycle transportation between the like North Lake area and the downtown.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's sort of coming about it at two different approaches that have a lot in common. Would you say that's a fair assessment of the?
Yeah, and
petition?
what Chuck also pointed out, he's a bicyclist.
Mhm.
What happened was he was going down
Yeah,
hill and crashed.
yeah,
Yep.
Just
Yeah.
because of its grade and the.
yep,
The steepness and the
the gravel. Yep.
the ruts that form.
Yep.
And yeah.
And I ride that regularly. That's my district. I live right there. And so I use that thoroughfare during bicycling season weekly.
I
And
think this is something with the new plan where it's not encouraging all uses for all paths.
Right.
I don't personally have a problem with that section getting paved because because of the transportation value. And then if people need
I
it
think
for
the real-
wheelchairs.
The real concern is you can't just pave straight up that hill, the grade.
Right.
I think that was
Yeah, we
David's
might
point
need to
here.
put some
Yeah.
in it.
I'm concerned that you can't. I don't know that you can't, but I would like to.
Some unofficially, technically, people stated that, they are aware of what ADA grades require.
Why can't we just few curves like you?
Switchback.
Switchback.
Yeah.
Yes, a
That,
switchback.
I mean, that, when
That
that
makes
trail
sense to
was
me.
first put in, it eroded away. There was a big rain in April and,
So I
within
imagine-
weeks.
Switchback would be,
So it needs to be redesigned.
So-
It's not a matter, you don't want to, I'm sorry, but paving is not the answer. Redesign of the trail and.
Yes.
And
Is
the
the
other thing I
answer.
want to say is that if we're just focusing on this section of the trail, I think we need to look at what we have holistically and say, what are the routes that we have for bicycles to navigate throughout the
Yes.
city?
That's,
Where are the places that we want our residents, our neighbors to be able to get to by whatever means they have, and what are the trail surfaces that we need to have to get them to those places?
mhm.
And where are the areas that are priorities? So that I know that we have other areas that are steep enough that during rain events, we get rutting and washout. So it's not just
Not just there,
one
yeah.
section of the
Yeah.
trail. So
Yeah, I
so it's-
understand, but also I like to not get too much, broaden this out too much when had a request to look at this, and I like to, we can work on the other stuff too, but let's initially begin with this.
and I should say, there has been, this is going years back.
Mhm.
People have requested extensive paving through this section of Pheasant Branch,
Oh, yeah.
which
Yeah.
was pretty much determined to be not even possible, because it would be a mass disruption in what is considered a conservancy. So I think it was the reason this section of it, because correct me if I'm wrong, that path section is actually considered park, not conservancy.
Well, if you bring up access day, you can kind of get an idea for what's.
Yeah.
But I guess my question was,
That's part of Orchid Heights Park.
part
Well,
of that
This
is,
is Bog Community
Lower.
Forest all the way down to what I
Yeah.
would say is probably this fence line.
Mhm.
And then I would call this the natural areas of Orchid Heights.
Yeah.
Or we could call it the Orchid Heights unit of the Pheasant Branch Conservancy.
Yeah.
That's how our new
But
Conservancy
but that area really isn't the conservancy, is it?
here,
The steep
I think
hill
this
is-
is,
The hill.
oh, this
That's
is
on
for
the hill?
sure.
the
Yes.
hill is the
Oh, that is
conservancy.
conservancy.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's so this is our West Hayfield, which was seeded
yeah,
2 years ago now. The East Hayfield got seeded this winter, so you've got, prairie restorations in progress.
I think that's an area where we could put in some switchbacks. Whether it gets paved or first redesign it with switchbacks.
Well, I think let's redesign, let's have someone look at design,
Yeah.
Yes,
see what can get done, determine where those switchbacks and what erosion control pieces need to be put in,
Mhm.
and then try to figure out what grade would be and whether this would be readily susceptible to erosion. Of course, it's susceptible to some
Yeah.
extent. And maybe that's all we have to do at first, is just put the switchbacks in.
That's what I'm thinking.
And then if that still doesn't work, then we can look at
What's that?
that.
Well,
you
this
think
is
the-
me, I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains in Virginia. Switchbacks were everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And they worked, and these were for cars, and you just
Right.
dealt with them, and it was easy. And I think that might be a good solution. We might not need to pave it with switchbacks.
But I think we need to have some engineer type
Yes,
look
an
at this
engineer.
and analyze and design.
Mhm.
So
what's typical cost, like
You asked me that.
city typical firms to look at a project like this? How many people hours are we
Well,
talking?
this is something we would ask
Yeah,
get a quote on.
I think I
and
can
ask council
reach
to
out to some
approve.
different firms that do this type of work and just get some ideas on what might be involved for planning process and just kind of some ballpark numbers so that when it comes to time to budget for this type of thing, we can make some
Yeah,
decisions.
because it'd be really nice so we can get this planning part out before budget, right?
Yeah,
Well, because, yeah, what I'm thinking is, my finance hat for a moment.
yeah.
You know, I think it's the dollar amount and what's palatable,
Yeah,
Yes.
for considering.
Well, this is an area that has so many multi-uses, especially transportation.
Yeah,
And it keeps people that want it for transportation out of the more sensitive areas of the Conservancy.
right.
And I think we need to start looking at what different trails are used for, and some are a little more sensitive and maybe should be wide enough for one person to walk through.
And that's about it.
Mhm.
I guess,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, and
Something wider for,
Yeah, because this is what,
yeah, it's the probably the 10-foot width of a multi-use path.
yeah, it's 10,
And
10 load.
it's-
And I would guess that it's even wider through the.
that must have been paved up there at one time, because there's asphalt.
Yeah, there's chunks of,
it could have been.
Probably was a service road that was to the water tower,
yeah,
yeah,
right.
and
But that's the flat, and that's before.
flat area, yeah. It's just, clearly it was paved at one time, and it was obviously made sense that it would be a service road.
Maybe, or, sorry. Maybe thinking about too, if the gravel gets on the pavement, because that'd be probably even worse, or
Mhm.
very close to being just as bad, so. Positioning of that.
well,
So Kevin, why don't you just look into
Yeah.
companies that
Yeah.
could come up with a
I can absolutely
design,
do that.
and then we can.
And I guess
Start
their
discussing.
first question to you is gonna be, are we designing for bikes or hikers?
well,
Because the sharpness of the curve for a bike is gonna be,
Mhm.
you don't, there's gonna be
Well,
limitations there on.
Back to
the
those
bike.
switchbacks that I
Those
grew
are
up
hikers.
driving.
Those are hiker switchbacks, aren't they?
No,
no,
no, these
Well-
are 4-lane roads
Yes,
with
where,
switchbacks.
where you have to do it to get up the mountain.
we'll
Yes.
put rumble strips in there once in a while.
Yeah, because when I was biking, I've only done this like once or twice, but going down that hill, you're a little scared about breaking on the gravel. And then coming up this
Gotta know what you're
hill,
doing.
you gotta get into the
Yeah.
right gear.
Well, I think that's where we need
But you
an
also
engineer.
want to be taking a sharp turn on a bike if you've got a grade going.
Well, this is why a professional engineer.
Yeah, and they need to know who
additionally-
they're designing for.
Yes, so I think,
Additionally, the planning department is working on their active transportation plan right now. And I'm sure they'd welcome feedback from this committee,
okay,
so.
So
I
would
think
we
we
tell them
can-
they're designing, I would think we would be telling them they're designing for bikers.
and potentially also.
For
disabled.
multi-use.
Multi-use.
Yeah.
And ADA,
Yeah,
yeah. And your point about this trail is able to keep people off of the other trail that is in the sensitive areas, so it makes sense to design it for higher
One thing about,
speed.
Hi.
ADA in a conservancy, I learned from you, was trails and paths in the conservancy do not have to be ADA.
Right. Right,
So,
But,
so
I mean,
this is one of those times where, we're still clear that not only
This
is it
is-
multi-use, but it's ADA multi-use.
yeah, and I see this as a way of connecting the northeast portion of Middleton, which is getting bigger and bigger, with getting it to Creek Corridor, transportation, so on.
Mm.
And taking pressure off the more sensitive, environmentally sensitive areas.
I'm sure some people might disagree with me, but I would think that if some parts of this don't quite comply with ADA, they're close, but don't quite make it, that's okay.
Yeah,
I'm I'm sure that is because it's a conservancy, but I think
We can try to make it as.
given
Exactly.
the fact that this is being brought to us based on ADA compliance.
Oh, I don't know that Charlie said that. He just said it was impossible for him to traverse with his wheelchair.
Right, so.
Yeah.
And of course, something that was ADA compliant would be possible for him.
Yep.
But I don't know that if it were 11% grade instead of 10%, was 10%, is that correct?
5,
5?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, geez.
yeah. Oh, 10% is really steep. I mean,
Yeah.
A lot.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I think we need to just hand it over to the engineers.
engineers and see what they come up with.
Suggestions of what we would like.
Yeah.
What our interest is.
And when I think percent, it's degrees, no?
No,
You can do it either way, but percentage
This-
rise over run like a carpenter would.
It is, okay.
Yeah. yeah. So
So
45 is
10 to
100%.
10 to 1 versus 5 to 1.
Yeah. So 5% is 5 inches over, over 100 inches. So,
Yeah,
that's 5 inches over 8 feet. That's pretty gradual.
Do we need a motion on that?
No, this is discussion. only.
Discussion.
Okay. I keep getting logged
Yep.
out of the agenda. Okay, surface materials.
I mean, these kind of went hand in hand.
Yeah,
And I mean, it was just a matter of back to Susan saying that some places having a path that is wide enough for one person to go down. It depends on the purpose of the path. Some places make sense for paving, some places it's gravel. I mean, it depends on natural surfaces. Width is dependent on various things,
an
so,
example was when we repaired the Creek Court path.
Yeah.
After the storm. I still remember it was going to be paved and then having to argue against other council members that we needed, when it was wide enough, just a small dirt path along the side for
Mhm.
people walking. And I think that was a fantastic idea. There were other people that, no, we just need a paved path. And so we've got to recognize all of these are multi-use
I mean,
and conflicting multi-uses.
getting back to Kevin and his holistic approach to paths and the conservancies. I mean, ideally, we go through each section of the path and try to determine the width and the material. That's a job.
So
Yeah,
we have a GIS layer within our park system that has an inventory of I think everything except for maybe the ski trails and the bicycle course up at Middleton Bike Park. That's finalized and field checked for all the asphalt.
you could provide us with all that information just to look at.
Oh, yeah. For the asphalt, we have passer ratings for all that, which is a condition rating that tells you where it is in its maintenance need, from anywhere from it needs seal coating, it doesn't need anything, it needs a complete reconstruction.
Let it die.
Yeah. And one of the things that this plan addresses is that we don't have maybe a standardized rating system like that of the passer rating for crushed limestone type trails.
They do have Pacer ratings for gravel,
Yeah, there's some.
although these are all,
Unimproved road type stuff, right?
yeah, they're all road centric. They're not trail centric. I mean,
And like we just talked about, we could have a trail that the surface is 10, and we get a rainstorm and all of a sudden it's a 5 in a day. So that sort of defeats the point of putting it in a system where you maybe react to those type of changes in your GPS software.
Why don't we start with just finding out what we have? It's
Well,
an
yeah.
informational thing. And then,
It'd be great if
Discuss.
there's something online that we could go in and zoom in and
yeah,
look at
that would
various
be
things.
even better.
If that'd be possible, that'd be great.
But just get the information first and
Yeah.
then let all of us think about what we want to do.
Yeah.
And I think in doing that also is look at some of these trails. Do they need to be just a one-person footpath sort of near the really fragile birds? I mean, this is something Kevin Munson has been concerned with.
Right, right.
Closeness to the eagles,
Right.
closeness to the owls, which we've lost some of them that were nesting and that sort of thing. We need to just sort of review all of that.
Yep.
And then other places like going out to Firefighters Park, it can be a nice big wide paved path by the North Fork of Pheasant Branch. Do we have anything? Oh, committee report. Is that enough discussion, David?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You want to report on parks?
We
haven't
canceled
had-
the last meeting.
We haven't had
Back
anything
of
parks for
agenda
a while,
items.
so I don't know.
Okay.
When's Kylie coming back?
5/19, she'll be at the PRFC meeting.
Ooh, all right.
How is she doing?
Yeah.
She's doing good. She's got her hands full, if you can imagine that.
Oh, yes.
What are their names?
Oh, no, blank on this.
Should we name them?
Yes, yes, we should. We should. We got
It's
many
Frederick.
suggestions here.
Video.
Okay, Charles is not here for Public Works and I'll report on water resources. Eric Sorensen retired
Yeah,
and we met the new person and I don't remember his name and that was it.
I was at Orchard, sorry.
So not a whole lot to report on there.
Ben John is the new head guy, but that's not who
Okay.
you met.
Yeah, I haven't met him.
He's
This was somebody,
to replace Eric, not Sean, yeah.
so. Okay, are there any future agenda items?
Pathways,
What
trails, pathways.
trails
And I
pathways?
sent an email to Kevin. There's a nice PDF flyer that is from the state program called A Million Trees, 100 million trees. Alder Nairo got it. She went to one of the, the DCCA, our local group,
Mhm.
and they were promoting this statewide. So it's a put together by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Probably just presented at maybe a future meeting. It's a very nice,
Yeah, that would be fine.
whatever you think, Susan. It's just
Yeah, I can add that to our future agenda items.
it's yeah, it's just I read through it, so I think it's just the state promoting.
Or send it out to all of us and then we can decide if we want to discuss it anymore.
Yeah, it's up to you. I just
Yeah, send us the document
Yep.
first.
wanted to bring it, pass it
Yeah.
along.
That would be good.
So sure, I'll pass that along.
One thing that I've had come up is on Conservancy Hill.
Hill.
There are people that want to restore it, and I've gotten questions about this concept of friends groups and so on working to restore it. And various different people have been asked. And I think we're talking about,
Is this the quarry?
yeah, the quarry.
Oh. right,
Oh,
okay.
the quarry. Yeah, they're looking to create a friends group, yes.
Right.
But
When you say the quarry, you mean the one along Highway
I
12?
think,
No,
Just right,
Paris.
right back here.
Oh,
and I think the biggest issue is there's
or escape.
some people in city government thinking it's got to be a 501c3 group. And then other people thinking like, when I first got into this, I organized a few neighbors and we restored the Middleton Hills Oak Savannah.
okay, but
Is the future agenda item
How do we,
definition of friends group.
well, let's don't make it even friends groups. How do we enable citizens to help with restoration?
Okay,
Can I get into some specifics about this place, or am I?
I would say no discussion
No.
on future agenda items. Yeah,
Because I have some concerns about this specific location,
Yeah.
but,
Well, maybe that is another agenda item. in the
okay,
future.
good, let's do that as an agenda item. But, yeah, I think you're right, we need to look at what.
I mean, if you want to
do with
discuss,
it.
if you want an agenda item, discussion of, that's called Quarry Hill.
Yeah,
Yeah, Quarry Hill.
Like, just, if you'd like a future discussion item, we
Yeah.
can just call it Quarry Hill. Then it'll be kind of more open.
yeah, okay,
And then the other discussion item
Is
would
the
be,
friends, how do,
how's we define a friends?
how do we
yeah,
manage and promote
Friends.
citizen initiatives?
yeah, and this has been a long-term issue going back even to when Penny Klein was here,
That well,
when, and it's got to deal with the legal issues of liability waivers and so on, and I know for the Middleton Hills.
Volunteerism.
Yeah,
Yes.
volunteerism.
yeah,
The Middleton Hills people, we were willing to sign a waiver. Friends of Pheasant Branch back then wouldn't sign a waiver.
she wanted us to wear steel-toed boots.
Oh,
for
she
all of our
did.
Work parties, that was gonna be a requirement.
Yeah, so we need,
I think that'll be immortalized.
yeah. So I
And
think,
again,
I've got some.
Story
You
already.
don't have
Discussion.
any?
so I have volunteerism, I have the 100 million trees initiative, discussion of Quarry Hill, and then shortly we're gonna see drafts of our Greater Pond Conservancy plan and our Bach Community Forest Conservancy plan.
it's quite a bit.
Yeah, so we're gonna be busy
Okay,
next month.
then if there's nothing else, we're adjourned. Got it done in an hour
I know,
with a lot of discussion.
yeah, last
Thank you.
pair of shoes I needed for my job, I went for the
Steel-
Timberland boots with
Yeah.